Hey guys, it's the Melblade 5, and ever since its teaser, the Smash Bros. For Switch has been widely anticipated, with many people making roster predictions and wish lists, as what happens with all Smash Bros. Games, especially as everybody says it's going to be a new game, but I'm admittedly adamant. Initially I was just going to stay silent on the whole wishlist thing because I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon like everybody else, but as I thought about what characters I would like to see, including those I wanted for Wii U and 3DS, in conjunction with moveset ideas, since whenever Smash Bros. Is being built up I like to think of moveset for characters, even those with no chance, it made me more willing to make this kind of video in relation to characters I feel have a bit of a decent chance of getting in. This isn't a countdown since, for one, there are 11 characters, and two, there isn't a particular order that I want to see these characters appear in. I just put them in the order that I think would flow best. For each character I'll explain why I would like to see them playable, which mostly relates to their moveset, and a brief idea of what their moveset could be. Just because I don't want this video to go on extremely long. And if the game turns out to just be a port with inklings in Breath of the Wild, I'll be setting everybody up for a major disappointment. So in no particular order, let's look at the 11 characters I'd most like to see in what is possibly Super Smash Bros. 5, or 6 depending on your perspective. Well, in actuality there's 12, but with the missing one, on top of having a 0.001% chance of making it in, I made a promise. So I'll only have this character first because it's related to the last game I finished LPing, Paper Mario. Paper Mario is a highly popular series in its own right, to the point that I think it deserves more representation than just a single stage throughout the entire series. In the lead up to Wii U and 3DS, I thought that Paper Mario would be a very cool newcomer to add because he wouldn't be a clone of Mario. He has many unique abilities that can make him completely original in terms of gameplay. One of his main forms of combat is his hammer, which I could see as a standard special that could be charged. Additionally, I can picture the Super/Ultra Hammer from Thousand Year Door as his side smash. And continuing with Thousand Year Door upgrades, the spring jump could be his recovery. But I feel that the main thing that can make Paper Mario stand out is by incorporating the partners into his moveset, both of their overworld and in-battle abilities. For example, using Cooper or Koops' shell toss for the side special, and Bombette or Bobbery for the down special. Plus maybe Bo and Vivian for his dodges. His paper transformations could be used for his regular attacks, with Throw from Super Paper Mario for the grab, and as for his final smash, one idea I've never seen anybody suggest, which I really like, is Supernova from Thousand Year Door. The crystal star flies across the stage, drawing lines, and anybody positioned over the lines when the screen flashes gets knocked back. Plus, if I can make a stage suggestion while I'm at it, I always thought the battle stage from Thousand Year Door would be really cool, along with the different stage events as hazards. On the subject of Mario characters, another that has sort of been a personal wish of mine is Waluigi. Now, Waluigi is a bit of a weird case for me, since while I would like to see him as a playable character, I'm not really fussed if he's in the assist trophy again. But Lilomac has shown that assist trophies can become playable, and as we already have Mario, Luigi, and Wario, why not put the last of the 4 plumber characters in there? Plus, I just really like Waluigi. When I was a kid, I didn't like him much, but as I got older, I grew to love him. Mainly because of the internet. Addressing the main argument I see for why Waluigi shouldn't be playable, he's such a pointless character, he was only created to be a doubles partner for Wario in Mario Tennis. I get where they're coming from, but I feel like Waluigi could act as the representative of the Mario spin-off series, as he's been playable in almost all of them since his debut in each of them. The spin-offs are a major part of the entire Mario franchise, and I feel this could be reflected in Waluigi's moveset, which in turn could highlight how wacky he is. Referencing his assist trophy abilities, he could use his tennis racket to serve tennis balls as a light projectile for a standard special, and maybe have the stomp attack as his down special. Then referencing his and Wario's affiliation with Bob-Ombs, including it being their item in Mario Kart Double Dash, his side special could be lobbing Bob-Ombs for a stronger but slower projectile that could be aimed. Then as Waluigi oddly has water bending abilities in some of the sports games, he could swim in the air as his recovery. I also think that hitting the dice block from Mario Party could be his up smash, whilst dunking a water basketball could be his down smash. With this, I think Waluigi would be a strong candidate for being a fast and unpredictable character, but be really lightweight as a downside. And for his final smash, I thought of his Mega Strike from Mario Strikers, in which he kicks dark footballs that ricochet off of everything. That's it for the Mario characters, but Smash Bros. Also represents the series belonging to other Mario characters. One of which being Donkey Kong Country, where out of all the possible characters, I would like to see King K. Rool the most. In the past, there were two issues related to representation in Smash Bros. Rosters: a lack of female characters and a lack of villains. While Wii U and 3DS greatly increased the number of female characters, we only got one new villain. While the Kremlings haven't been villains in Donkey Kong Country for a long time, K. Rool was a very popular request in the Smash ballot. I personally feel that he has much more potential for an interesting moveset compared to someone like Dixie, and even though he was a Mii costume, so were the Inklings. As you'd guess, he would be a heavyweight character, but K. Rool isn't that slow in the game, so he could end up being the fastest heavyweight. K. Rool can easily be given the different attacks he uses in his boss fights across the series, where he also just randomly changes jobs. Of course, there's throwing his crown like a boomerang, and his blunderbuss from Diddy's Conquest that fires cannonballs, which you could interchange between whether it's his neutral or side special, I don't know which. His copter pack from Dixie's Double Trouble would obviously be his recovery, and he could have a ground pound style down special, with his boxing moves from 64 as his smash attacks. Then for his final smash, he could summon the Gangplank Galleon in the background and have it fire cannonballs at the opponents. As for another character whose chances are a bit questionable to some people, Bandana Waddle Dee, or just Bandana D as he's commonly referred to by fans. When building up to Wii U and 3DS, I was on and off about wanting Bandana D, because at the time I wrongly believed that Adventure Wii was his first game, but someone showed me that he's been in the series for much longer. What makes me fully set on wanting to see him now is how he's being treated as part of the main Kirby cast in recent years, especially in Star Allies where he was one of the 3 initial Dream Friends. I feel like Kirby is a big enough series to have 4 characters, and since he literally is player 4, it would make sense. In Adventure Wii and Star Allies, he has all of Spirit Kirby's attacks, which can easily be translated to Smash Bros. Like the Spear Throw and the Helicopter Spear move thingy as his recovery. Plus, and I know I'm not the first person to say this, he could be given other Waddle Dee abilities like the Parasol just to make his moveset more varied, and maybe some of his attacks could work in a similar way to the Staff ability for the same reason. But for his final smash, I honestly can't think of anything very good that would fit. I could only think of giving him DDD's old final smash, but good by dealing more knockback. Getting back to Nintendo's 3 biggest series, surprisingly, in Wii U and 3DS, we never got a Zelda character. And while they have the 3 main characters already, one character I would like to see, although her chances are slim for reasons I'll explain later, is Impa. Admittedly, I would also like to see Wolf Link and Midna, but I feel Impa's chances are better. To me, Impa makes the most logical sense for a new Zelda character because she's the most recurring and important character in the series after Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. She appears in most of the games and is mainly Zelda's caretaker. Before Wii U came out, there was this fake leak called the Tower of Smash, which said that Impa would be playable, and it did make me really get into the idea of her being a fighter. As she's commonly the leader of the Sheikah, she'd have many ninja techniques and the use of Sheikah-related items like smoke bombs, which would make her sound like a clone of Sheik, but Impa also has many magic abilities that could be used, like creating barriers and exploding balls. But if on the off chance they would use the Hyrule Warriors version, she would have her giant blade and Naginata with water and fire powers respectively. For her final smash, I can't think of anything good. All I have is something smoke bomb related, like dropping a bunch of them or covering the stage in smoke, but neither sound very good to me. If we're sticking to the main series, Skyward Sword Impa would make the most sense since that's the one that's done the most stuff. But that takes me to why I think Impa's chances are slim. Based on the teaser, they appear to be using the Breath of the Wild versions of the characters, and in Breath of the Wild, Impa is really old like in her earlier game appearances. So unless they want a Kung Fu Granny, I doubt she'd be in. So while Wii U and 3DS didn't have any Zelda newcomers, it did have a bunch of Fire Emblem ones. Yeah, I know. I'm in agreement. As much as I love Fire Emblem, I don't think it deserves more characters than Zelda and equal to Pokemon. But since its debut in Smash Bros., a new Fire Emblem character is added in each game. I would love for Lyn to be playable rather than an assist trophy again, but I think that's unlikely considering the trend of Fire Emblem newcomers. It's highly probable that they could use the protagonist of the Switch game, like what they did with Roy and Corrin, but as we don't know anything about that game yet, and it also being probable that they'll just include someone from the most recent game at this point in time, let's look at Echoes. We have Alm and Celica to choose from, and I don't see both of them getting in. I'm going with Celica because she was also in Warriors, and I think she has the potential for a more interesting moveset. Of course, Celica would have her dagger to fight with, making her another sword fighter, but as she starts off as a priestess rather than a lord, she can also use tomes and thus magic, making her a fusion of the typical sword fighting Fire Emblem characters and Robin. Her standard and most associated magic is fire, which could make up a good portion of her moveset, like being able to conjure and shoot fireballs at her opponents. She has other spells too, one of which being Excalibur, which is not a sword but a powerful wind spell that I could see as a strong but slow-moving projectile to differentiate it from Robin's Elwind. I can't think of a good recovery though. That doesn't involve just copying Robin's, but for a down special, in a similar vein to the Wii Fit trainers, she could use the recover spell to slightly heal her, but it would have a recharge time. While I did struggle to think of a final smash for her that wasn't another critical hit at first, I thought of Ragnarok, as it's the most powerful dark magic spell in Gaiden/Echoes, it's very powerful in Fates as well, and it's Celica's tome in Heroes. She could create a large burst of fire across the entire stage, with a couple of small explosions here and there, and play Led Zeppelin. Speaking of fire, one of the most common characters I see on wishlists and predictions, who, admittedly, I would also like to see playable, is Rex and Pyra. Xenoblade has gotten much more popular in the past couple of years to the point that I think it's kind of worthy of getting another character on top of Shulk. Plus, Rex and Pyra could have a very unique playstyle by adopting the blade and driver mechanics from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It would make sense for Rex and Pyra to be a tag team like the Ice Climbers. However, Rex's attacks would be stronger, whilst Pyra is standing next to him and for long enough, as represented by the beam tether thing, I can't remember what it's called. But if they're standing far away from each other, then Rex becomes much weaker and possibly slower. But obviously, Pyra will be AI programmed to walk over to where Rex is when they're apart. Special moves are super easy to come up with. Just give Rex all of his arts when Pyra is equipped since there's already 4 of them. Sword Bash for standard, and works the same as Shulk's backslash. Rolling Smash for side. Double Spinning Edge for down, which can hit on both sides. And Anchor Shot as the recovery, just because Rex could use it as a grappling hook like when salvaging, and it could also be his grab like the hook shot. Then their smash attacks would be using Pyra's fire arts, with them especially getting a power increase from standing close, and Pyra could also transform into Mithra to change fire attacks to light-based ones. Although I don't know what to do about that, since the plot states that Mithra is stronger than Pyra, but in gameplay, you can switch between them on the fly. Maybe she could transform under a certain requirement, because for their final smash, while they could just copy Chain Attack from Shulk, but use Nia and Tora instead, I think Sacred Arrow would make a lot more sense, as it stayed to be Mithra's strongest power, and it could be a bit like PK Starstorm, just with Pyra always turning into Mithra upon activation. Although I've admittedly not finished Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I'm only on Chapter 6 at like just under 40 hours, so there could be something better. Just don't spoil me. And I mean it, because the last time I said don't spoil me, I got spoiled anyway. But really, the only reason why I have Rex and Pyra as the Xenoblade 2 reps is because they're the main characters. If I was making this game and could put in any character I wanted, I would add the Zekinator! Because I love Zeke. He's my favorite character in the game.
Handling a man's turtle.
And oh, I've been dreading talking about this again. This is a character I've always really wanted to see in Smash Bros, and it's not changed. Ridley. Getting the whole Ridley is too big debate out of the way, I think Ridley can easily be resized like many other playable characters to the point that he's the largest character in the game, but not massive, a bit bigger than Bowser, which can be seen in fan concepts and mods. And while Sakurai thinks he's too big, I have to respectfully disagree. Size has never played a factor into Ridley's actual character, as in his personality and backstory. In fact, the whole thing they did with him in the Pyrosphere actually does more to go against his character. And as for limiting his flight, Kirby can fly infinitely in his games, but can't in Smash Bros. So I don't see why it's only a problem with Ridley. Sakurai has changed his mind on a number of things before, and Ridley could end up being another case of this. Although I do doubt it because of my luck and development likely starting not too long after Wii U and 3DS if this is a new game, as what I've heard from other people. If it's a port or Pyrosphere just returns, then chances are zero. Again, Smash Bros. Needs more villains, and Metroid definitely deserves a character that isn't a variation of Samus. I've even had a Ridley moveset plan for years. I feel that Ridley can be given a unique playstyle by making him the opposite of Little Mac. He's really fast and strong in the air, but sluggish on the ground. Ridley could have what I call a flight mode, in which he stays in the air slightly above the ground, a bit like Peach's Parasol. But of course, it wouldn't last forever and have a cooldown. While flight mode is active, Ridley can use his attacks to the best of their abilities. However, as he's a big target, he'll still be easy to hit. His standard special would be his Fireball Breath, where he can shoot a stream of small fireballs normally, but can be held down and when fully charged releases a single large fireball that leaves a short fire residue. His side special would be a simple charge and swipe attack that is much faster in the air. Up special would just be him flying into the air, but flight mode can't be activated afterwards to prevent people from just hovering at the very top of the stage. And his down special would be a tail grind spinning move on the ground, but his weird pogo tail technique in the air. Lastly, for his final smash, of course, Meta Ridley, as a transformation akin to Giga Bowser, where he grows to a massive size with increased attack power, has infinite flight, and his Fireball Breath is replaced with a stronger laser beam attack. But like with Giga Bowser, he can still take damage. So continuing on with characters that can fly, great segue, another character that's been widely wished for and predicted is TheJWittz. And I am also in agreement on this. While TheJWittz isn't my favorite out of the Alolan starters, he is the most popular. Plus, I think he has the best moveset potential out of the three, and Grass is the only starter type that hasn't gotten its own individual character in Smash Bros. As Grass is my favorite type, tied with Dragon, because Totoro is and always will be my favorite Pokemon, despite the lies people spread about what's actually my favorites, I wanted Grass to get more representation, but I don't see Totoro working well. As TheJWittz is an archer, he could be a highly projectile-focused character, kind of like Mega Man, but to a greater extent by giving him weak physical moves and making him lightweight to encourage keeping a distance from opponents. His stand special can be Spirit Shackle, which like in the games can trap opponents in place. Side special could be Razor Leaf, which fires a swarm of leaves like the in-game animation. Up special can be Phantom Force, where TheJWittz teleports. And down special could be Ominous Wind to blow nearby opponents away. Also, I literally just thought of his side smash being U-turn, to let him bounce back from the opponent to give more distance. As for the final smash, no contest. It's got to be Sinister Arrow Raid. Starting with Melee, Smash Bros. Characters have always included a retro character as a newcomer. A character from an old 8-bit Nintendo game that hasn't had a new game since that era. Melee had the Ice Climbers, Brawl had Pit, and Wii U and 3DS had the Duck Hunt duo. Honestly, I've never really cared for the retro characters since they were long before my time, but there is one retro character I would like to see. Takamaru. For anybody that doesn't know who he is, Takamaru is the protagonist of a game for the Famicom known as Nazo no Murasame-jo, which translates to The Mysterious Murasame Castle. It's a lot like the original Legend of Zelda, but the plot is Takamaru, who is a samurai, having to traverse through castles and defeat aliens, no joke, that are trying to take over Edo, Japan. Takamaru was an assist trophy in Wii U and 3DS, and despite his game initially being only available in Japan, it has been referenced a few times in other games. It was the basis for one of the games in Nintendo Land, and Takamaru himself was a playable character in Samurai Warriors 3, before his game finally became available to those outside Japan through the 3DS Virtual Console, which could give Takamaru a better chance, as the reason why he was an assist trophy rather than being playable was because he was only familiar in Japan at the time. For his moveset, his standard special would be throwing shurikens, as they were his only other standard weapon. Side special would be Deflect, where just like his game, Takamaru can deflect projectiles like Fox and Falco, but only from the front. His up special would be some samurai ninja technique. and his down special could be his game's invisibility cloak, doing as it says, where he can surprise attack opponents but can be knocked out of it and you can vaguely see his shadow. His smash attacks can utilize some of his other upgrades like the fireball attack but with less range, and maybe even the clay bombs from his Nintendo Land game. Finally, Takamaru's game has a weapon called Inazuma Lightning, which acts as a screen nuke. That can be his final smash, in which he summons random bolts of lightning from the top of the screen. As all the retro characters get their own stage as well, to make another stage request, we have the Murasame Castle itself. It could be like a tall stage to match the architecture, and maybe have ninjas that pop out and attack players. Now for the final character. Well, excluding the one I'm not talking about in this video. I talked about what I think of this character possibly being in Smash Bros. Before, but I deleted that video because it was out of date. Goku! No, I'm kidding. Shovel Knight. I don't know how likely it is for an indie game character to get into Smash Bros, but on top of Shovel Knight being a no-brainer for me, as his game is the only indie game I've played, other than Azure Striker Gunvolt, he pretty much is the face of indie games due to how many cameos he's made in others. Plus, he has been a decently requested character, including in the Smash Ballot. For his normal moves, they'd of course all revolve around his Shovel Blade, with things like the Charge Handle and Ground Spark as his side and down smashes respectively, plus the Shovel Drop for his down air. But the main thing about Shovel Knight would be the implementation of the relics into his moveset. The Flare one could be an obvious choice for his standard special, with the Chaos Sphere and Alchemy Coin as possible custom moves. The Dust Knuckles or Mobile Gear as his side special. Personally, I think the Mobile Gear is more interesting, as it would create a moving platform that does damage, and the player could choose to stay standing on it or run off to use as a means of transportation or as a battering ram respectively. The Propeller Dagger would make an easier recovery, just with him directing it upwards, and the War Horn could be his down special, but of course it won't be as powerful as in the game. For other relics, the Throwing Anchor can be used as an up smash projectile, but again with not as much range, and the Phase Locket can be used for dodges. As for his final smash, previously I thought of the War Horn and had the Phase Locket as the down special, but now I thought of a much better idea, which would be to have him summon Shield Knight, and the two would fight together similarly to the final boss battle. To put this simply, Shield Knight would be like a really powerful assist trophy. A lot of Shovel Knight's abilities translate so well into Smash Bros. That I didn't have much to elaborate on. So that's it for all the characters, minus one, that I would ideally like to see playable in Smash Bros. For Switch. I don't expect every single one of these characters to get in, if any do, since some definitely have better chances than others, and I don't even think this game will have this many newcomers on top of the Inklings, depending on when it started development. I mean, there could also be DLC if there aren't bosses or assist trophies, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait till E3 next month to see this game and find out if I was really, really clever, or horribly, horribly wrong as usual.